Hi, my name is Lauren, and as you can see, I'm pregnant. I am 33 years old. At this point, I'm about 31 going on 32 weeks pregnant, and this is my fourth child, and I will be having the baby at home. It is April 27. I don't know why I thought that. It's April 2020, and we are in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. I um, had opted to have my baby at home before all this came out, so it just kind of actually worked in my favor that was the choice I had made. But I figured it'd be nice to kind of share my experience for other mothers who may be A, considering home birth, B, be a mother of multiple children, and C, maybe have gone through similar things that I went through. You know, being a mother then. I started having children at 19 to being a mother now at 33. Um, so right now I'm in the process. We decided, just a little background. Like I said, I have 4 children. My oldest is 14. Well, I have 3 children, one on the way. My oldest is 14. My middle is 8. And my youngest that is born is 7. And then I have one on the way. I have 2 other children that I take care of as well. Well, I guess one's not really a child, but he lives with me. My nephew, he's 19 going on 20. And then I have another nephew who is 17 going on 18 this year, they've both been living with me for a couple of years at this point. So all boys, don't know what I'm having, hoping it's a girl, fingers crossed, because at this point I think I'm definitely done having children. I mean, I am open to another, but I don't know about that based off of circumstances. We can talk about another time. Um, why I chose to have the baby at home. So it's definitely like an individual decision, and I would always encourage every woman to kind of do their own research and figure out a birth plan that's going to be best for them. But for me, I kind of felt like after I had my first child and I knew what I was getting myself into, all my prior pregnancies were very unproblematic. Um, my first pregnancy, I didn't use any epidural. My second pregnancy, I didn't use any epidural. My third pregnancy, I did get an epidural, but it didn't kick in until he came out, so it was kind of like pointless. But for me, after I had my first child, it was always something I had been interested in doing, but just through kind of circumstance and doing and lack of research on my behalf, I never moved forward with it. So I would encourage every mother to kind of do their own research individually and with their partner and kind of figure out a birth plan that's going to be best for them. If you're kind of in a position where you feel like you don't do painkillers, you enjoy the comforts of your home, I think at home is best, because ultimately this is a space filled with love. And not to say that a hospital is not, I don't mean to imply that they don't care about people at hospitals, because they do, but ultimately you don't know all the energy coming in and out of there. You know what energy flows in and out of your home. And for me, it was important to make sure that my baby came into the world in a space filled with love. And realistically, when you're in a hospital, sometimes there's restrictions on how many people can be in the room. You don't have to deal with that in a home birth. All my children and my partner are going to be in the room when we deliver the baby. You can kind of set your own pace when you're at home, meaning you can labor in peace. No one's kind of rushing you, and oh, if we don't get here by a certain time, then we got to do this in X, Y, and Z. You don't have to go through that at home. And for me, I just think it's going to be a bit more of a relaxing experience, because a lot of what's happening is going to be on my terms, my partner's terms. And like I said, the biggest thing for me is the love. I wanted to make what would possibly be my last child coming into the world, you know, a loving, comfortable space, and I raised all my children and my two kind of adopted children, if you will, in this home. So why not bring the last one in here, and then you don't have to drive home from the hospital or any stuff like that. We're already here, so it's perfect for me. And like I said, you know, I definitely just want to put a disclaimer out there. I had a long interview with my midwife before I decided to work with her. I actually did go to speak to an obstetrician before I signed off on this route, and I was surprisingly, the obstetrician was actually very encouraging, and they went through my medical history and they said, you know, I think you'd be a great candidate for this if you want to move forward because of your prior pregnancies and how they went. So I did make sure to kind of make sure mentally I was in a comfortable space before I made the decision to have a baby at home. And you know, just specifically as a woman of color, I think we all need to know and recognize that we have options. Everything doesn't have to be like a kind of one size fits all approach. You don't have to go to the hospital because your homegirl went to the hospital. You can go to the hospital if you want. You can have your baby at home if you want. Because I'll tell you, in the beginning, I got a lot of side eyes for my choice to do this at home. Even from my partner, he was not on board with doing this at home. But then all this stuff hit with the coronavirus, and everybody's kind of looking at me like, wow, you made such a good choice to have the baby at home. You guys won't have to interact with a bunch of people anymore and kind of put the baby at risk. That was such a good idea, blah, blah, blah. And that was kind of, you know, coronavirus aside, that was kind of what I was trying to explain to people. But sometimes I realize that people have to kind of be in the position to feel it. And I'm a bit more forward thinking in that way, where I didn't have to be in the situation to understand, like, you know, energy, germs, all that stuff. Like, you don't want that around your baby, especially not in the first few weeks, few days, few months. And like, you want your baby to have a peaceful space as much as is within your control. So for me, it just kind of felt like the right choice. Price, not cheap, but neither, if you've had a baby in the hospital, neither is that. So the price for the midwife was about $5,000. That covers pretty much everything, all your appointments and things of that nature. So we paid in installments. We're actually 36 weeks, we would make our last installment payment. And what I thought was really cool about my midwife is, if you pay as you go, and let's say halfway through the pregnancy you find out whatever, you having some complication, you have to give birth in the hospital, and you've paid like up to the halfway point, you don't have to pay anymore. The moment you transition to another facility, you are clear of your payments with her. And I don't know if that's just her specific or how they all do it, but that really kind of sold me on working with her, because it didn't feel like we were taking as much of a risk in that way. So it is expensive, but having a baby period is expensive. So, you know, I would say the cost difference is about maybe $1,000 when you consider all your co-pays, deductibles, and stuff like that, working through a doctor's network. And I don't have the best insurance, so it was definitely the cost difference wasn't that much that it kind of swayed us either way. What else? Appointments are the same. In the beginning, I went once a month. Now I'm on every other week. At 36 weeks, I'll be once a week. So that part's the same. I had 2 ultrasounds during this pregnancy, and it really was only supposed to be, no, I'm lying, I had 3. I had one at 12 weeks, and then I had another one around maybe like 20 weeks, and I had to go back at 24 weeks because there were angles they couldn't get. But I got the standard like anatomy scans just to make sure, you know, 5 fingers, well, 10 fingers, that's stupid, 10 fingers, 10 toes. Oh my goodness, my camera is so annoying. Oh, it will not focus. Sorry. Okay. I hate that. Okay. Is to make sure everything was there. 10 fingers, 10 toes, spine, nose, all that stuff. So ultrasounds were pretty standard. I know some people get more ultrasounds than that, but my midwife, she's pretty conservative with that kind of stuff. Unless you need it, she doesn't really feel the need for it. So in my case, she doesn't feel like we're going to need any more moving forward, so I won't be getting any more moving forward. What else? Ultrasounds, diet. We talk a lot about my diet and just making sure I'm getting a lot of fresh vegetables and fruits, fermented foods, Greek yogurts, pickles. I haven't had any kimchi, but kimchi, things of that nature. Good, basically just good gut foods, good body foods, just a little bit of everything in here. Just a little bit of everything to kind of make sure we are, you know, keeping baby healthy and happy. And obviously getting weighed, make sure I'm getting weight appropriately. She listens to the baby on the Doppler. On my appointments, we always check heart rate, things like that. So really the appointments do not differ that much from your standard OB appointment. So I would say in that way, you're kind of looking at a similar route. I guess, and see, when I used the OB, I had a private, so I always had the same lady. But I know sometimes I've heard other women say like they have to rotate through different OBs, so it's not as personal of an experience. I got lucky to where I've always kind of had a personal experience, midwife or OB. But again, if you're looking for like a more personalized experience, I'd say definitely go midwife route or private practice route. I think that's the best way to get that. As far as my home interactions, I didn't tell my kids right away. I wanted to wait and just make sure, I guess, the pregnancy stuck, if you will. My little ones were very excited. My 14-year-old, surprisingly, I don't want to say he wasn't excited, but he was kind of shocked. He was worried for his mom, and that surprised me, and not so much in my ability to take care, but he wanted to know if the man I was having a baby with was going to be there for me, and that was his major concern. And something I'll never forget that he said to me was, "Mom, I just don't want you to have to continue to do this by yourself." And that really, sorry, it just touched me a lot. Because if you have children, you know how hard it is, and you know how much you tend to question yourself and what you're doing and if you're doing it right. And not only, you know, for me, it's important to raise young men of good moral character, and it was just kind of confirmation that I'm raising young men of good moral character. So I assured him that no matter what, things were going to be okay. And I can't make promises on somebody else, but it was going to be okay. In the same way I tried my best to be there for him and his brothers, I will try my best this time to, be there for this baby. And it was a very nice bonding experience. One thing I can say about this experience in general, it has been very nice to bond with my children. As far as my partner goes, he works on the road, so he's not here very often. Maybe like every 6 to 7 weeks or so. As we wind down, he should be coming about 3 weeks prior to my due date, which is June 16th, just so he's kind of nearby in the event I go into labor. Having a partner on the road when you're pregnant, just to be honest, I wouldn't suggest it. I've done this I guess kind of the first time I did it, I was very young, didn't know what I was getting into. So I was 19, so that was just kind of a circus within itself. My second son, I didn't really have to do it on my own, but I was married at the time. There were a lot of problems within that relationship. So maybe I wouldn't necessarily say I was physically alone, but I was mentally alone. My third son, by my ex-husband, he was already off for boot camp for the military, so I kind of went through that pregnancy alone. And this pregnancy, for the most part, I've been alone. You know, not when I say alone, my children are here, but you know, children are adults, not having that kind of relationship with them. But as from a relationship standpoint, I've been alone. I really wouldn't suggest it, because I can say, at least for me, pregnancy has always been a bit of a lonely experience. And I have a really great partner, but you know how it is. Sometimes they don't understand and they don't get it. And then when you have that distance between you guys, it definitely kind of creates a strain on things. So if I had to tell any person that was considering having a baby, you know, really kind of be honest with yourself and where you are mentally before you make that choice, especially if you're making that choice to kind of go through it alone, because it is difficult. And never let anybody kind of take away from you how difficult it is. Everybody's experience is going to be individual. My experience specifically is, you know, I'm a very transparent person about my issues. I've struggled with depression since my early 20s. And then you add depression and layer on those pregnancy hormones. It doesn't make things easier. So I love my child. I don't have any regrets, but just the truth is I do wish I would have waited, because the strain it has put on me, the strain it has put on my relationship, and kind of not knowing where things are in that way. I would not suggest it. But you know, it's just one thing I can say about depression in life and tough times is I just take it one day at a time, and I would highly encourage anyone else to take it one day at a time. Things I've kind of done to work through my difficulties during this pregnancy are a lot of praying, a lot of writing. I wake up every day. I take a shower every day. I try to make myself move around, even though sometimes I don't feel like it. I just basically try to be very intentional. And if you suffer from depression, you know how important it is to be intentional with your actions, because long term it just kind of helps you climb out of that hole a little better, a little quicker. And you know, you're not just doing it for you right now, you're doing it for you and your little bun in the oven. So make sure you think about that type of stuff. So that's kind of been my journey from week 0 to now week almost 32. I'll probably do at least, well, definitely one video. You guys will be there for the birth for sure, but maybe another video, like, you know, something kind of a little lighter, like when I took my pregnancy test, or, you know, things like that, my photo shoots, and how, you know, with everything going on and having such a large family, how I had to find ways to save money and still kind of make this pregnancy fun. So it was a pleasure talking to everyone. I really hope someone can gain some great takeaways from my experience, and I'm here for questions, comments, or whatever else, and we'll definitely keep you posted with what's going on with our little fun. Thanks.